Hello guys, welcome to my channel Chem Insider. So in today's class we are going to discuss about a main important topic of structure of atom chapter, that is energy of the orbitals. So in the previous class we have discussed about quantum number and shape of the orbitals. In today's class we will be discussing about energy of the orbital. So if you haven't watched the shape of the orbital video, please do watch it first and then we can watch this energy of orbital. So for that, if you start with an energy of an orbital, we have understood certain topics regarding energy of hydrogen atom, right? So when you consider energy of an hydrogen atom, we defined energy with respect to in terms of principal quantum number, right? Energy was defined with respect to in terms of principal quantum number, where it is given was E proportional to 1 by n square. E being proportional to 1 by n square. So that is, if the principal quantum number increases, energy will be going on decreasing. And clearly it was of a negative value. So if you write down the equation, which you got was minus RH into 1 by n square, right? So if energy n value increases, energy will be more and more negative. Energy will be more and more negative. Okay. So clearly, in the first condition of hydrogen atom, it was a uni-electron system, that is, it had just one electron. So if you consider for multi-electron system, we might get a different area of energy. So therefore, let us first discuss what happens if you consider just energy of one hydrogen electron with one electron system. So if you consider one electron system as the energy in order to calculate the multi-electron system also, what happens is, for n is equal to 1, energy will be equal to minus RH, right? For n is equal to 1, energy will be equal to minus RH. For n is equal to 2, energy will be equal to minus RH by 4, because 2 square. When n is equal to 3, energy will be equal to minus RH by 9. So clearly, with the increasing principal quantum number, energy will be decreasing. So now if you consider just the principal quantum number, and for n is equal to 1 we have shell value called K shell. So for n is equal to 1 we have K shell, n is equal to 2 we have L shell, and for n is equal to 3 we have M shell, right? So if you just consider that n value, so each K shell has respective suborbitals, subshells, which are called as SPDF, which are defined on the basis of values of L. So for K shell we have just one, that is 1s orbital, and for L shell we have two orbitals, those are 2s and 2p, and for M shell we have three subshells, those are 3s, 3p, 3d, and similarly for n is equal to 4, energy will be equal to minus RH by 16, that implies n shell with value with orbitals 4s, 4p, 4d and 4f. So all these orbitals present in the given shells will be having same energy. That is, energy of 2s orbital will be equal to 2p, energy of 3s will be equal to 3p, which will be equal to 3d, 4s will be equal to 4p, which will be equal to 4d, which will be equal to 4f. So if you write the increasing order of energy of the orbitals with respect to hydrogen, that will be 1s less than 2s equal to 2p, less than 3s equal to 3p equal to 3d, which is less than 4s, and so on. So clearly each of the shell will have same amount of energy, but if we have two different levels or two different subshells of same energy, then those are called degenerate orbitals. So these two are called degenerate orbitals. These are called degenerate orbitals, where both 2s and 2p will be having same amount of energy, and these three are degenerate orbitals of principal quantum number 3, and these 4 are degenerate orbitals of principal quantum number 4. So if you consider this particular relation of relating energies with increasing order, what you can say is the basic 1s electron orbital of hydrogen is usually found in each and every element of multi-electron atoms also. So therefore this 1s orbital is called ground state. This 1s orbital is called ground state level or ground state energy. So energy related to the ground state is called ground state energy. That is because if you consider oneness of hydrogen atom, that oneness will be present in each and every multi-electron systems. Therefore, oneness level is called the ground state and energy associated with oneness level is called the energy of ground state. So, if the electron which was present in ground state is excited to any other level, if the electron present in the oneness is excited to 2s, 2p, 3s, 3p, 3 etc., then those levels are called excited levels. Then those levels will be called as excited levels or excited states. Okay. So this is what we can consider in case of hydrogen atom. That is where we just use our principal quantum number to differentiate the energy level. So if I write that in respect to the energy level, so if this is energy taken on y-axis, so what happens is oneness will be nearer to the ground state. Oneness will be here, 2s and 2p. Similarly 3s, 3p, 3d. 3s, 3p, 3d, and we'll have 4s, 4p, 4d and 4f. Okay, so this will be the energy level of hydrogen atom within case of using its equation from Bohr's model of an atom. Now, if we have to consider multi-electron system, now if you consider a multi-electron system or multi-electron atom, what happens here is we are going to consider both principal quantum number and azimuthal quantum number. That is because if you increase the number of electrons, so let us say this is the nucleus of our atom and we have multiple shells present here like this. So this is the K shell, this is L and M. So if you consider multi-electron atom, what happens is the electrons which are present closer to the nucleus, that is the electrons present on the K shell or the electrons present on the L shell, might liberate or might give away a kind of shielding effect. So partial screening effect, it is also called as partial screening effect. That is, if you are considering there are electrons present on M, there are electrons present on M orbital or M shell, the electrons which are already present in the K shell, the electrons which is already present in the K shell might form a repulsion. So that is, the electrons present in the orbital or shells which are present closer to nucleus might experience certain amount of attraction. We know that electrons present on the shells will be experiencing certain amount of attraction, and further the electrons present in the same orbital might be experiencing a mutual repulsion also. So what we observe is, in case of multi-electron atom, we come across two forces. One is the force of attraction between the nucleus and the electron. One is the force of attraction between nucleus and the electron. The other is the force of repulsion between electrons present in the same level. Electrons present in the same level or electrons present between two adjacent levels. Okay, so this is the attraction between electrons and the nucleus, and there is a repulsion between electrons of the same orbit and electrons of the different orbital. So when you add up these, when you sum up all those repulsion and attraction forces, we result in the greater value of nuclear energy. So that is efficient nuclear attraction. Efficient nuclear attraction, which is nothing but effective nuclear charge. That is, whenever you add up all the energies which you are experiencing, that is the attraction of electrons by the nucleus or the repulsion between the two mutual electrons, when you sum up all those forces, what you get is a stable nuclei, a stable nucleus, where the amount of attraction overcomes both amount of repulsion between the electrons of the same orbit and the repulsion between the electrons of two different orbits. Okay, so if you consider nuclear attraction and minus of electron repulsion of same orbit and plus of electron repulsion of different orbit. So On summing up all these three, we get is the effect of attraction of electrons by the nucleus is much more greater than the effect of repulsion experienced by electrons of same orbit or electrons of different orbit, which results in the stability of the nucleus. So if you can say is, so if there is some repulsion between two friends, okay, let us say we are considering three friends. So out of these three friends, only two are attracted with one another and two are one against one another. So let us say we have a friend A who is good with B and C. If a friend is good with both B and C, so this A will be nothing but our nucleus. Okay. So A is attracting B towards A and it is also attracting C towards itself. And what we observe is there is a repulsion between B and C. Okay, there is a repulsion between B and C. When A's attraction towards itself of B and C is much more greater than the repulsion between these two, what happens is their friendship relays for a longer period. Similarly, when the attraction of nucleus towards the electron is much more greater than the repulsion between the electrons itself, what we can observe is we result in a charge with a positive attraction. So therefore we can say is a nucleus with stable energy is because of its stable nuclear attraction. Okay, so nuclear attraction which attracts the electron towards itself. Once this is done, once the electrons have been attracted by the nucleus, what happens is the electrons present in the inner orbitals are attracted more by the electrons present on the inner orbitals are attracted more by the nucleus, whereas electrons present on the outer shells will be attracted less, which is because if you consider this as a number of students present along a bench, if a lecturer is teaching at the front, most of the students present at the front will hear his voice in audible range, and those who are present away from him will be hearing with a low audibleness. So therefore clearly the students present in between them, the lecturer and the students present in the far, so the students present between those two create a shielding effect. That is, they create a screen in order to repel or in order to stop the attraction of this nucleus towards those electrons. So if this nucleus is attracting that electron, let us consider we have an electron here and we have certain electrons present over here. So if this nucleus is attracting that electron, what happens is the electrons which is already present in the inner orbit create a screening around the orbital of their presence orbital, so which results in no attraction between the electron on the outer shell and the nucleus. It results in the decrease in attraction by the nucleus towards the outermost electron. This type of effect is called shielding effect. This effect is called shielding effect. So this shielding effect results in decrease in effective nuclear charge. This shielding effect results in decrease in effective nuclear charge. So what is this effective nuclear charge is? This effective nuclear charge is nothing but the overall attraction of nucleus towards each and every electron. Okay. So if the nucleus is attracting all the electrons with the equal amount of energy, then that effective nuclear charge will be greater. If we are observing certain shielding effects such as like this, what happens is the effective nuclear charge of this complete atom will be going to decrease. So clearly, with increasing shielding effect, we will observe effective nuclear charge going to decrease. Effective nuclear charge going to be decreased. Okay. So this effective nuclear charge decreases means it nothing but resulting in the atomic number. That is, if more and more the atomic number increases, the number of electrons and the number of shells increases. Right? If the atomic number increases, number of shells increases, which results in more and more of the shielding effect, which results in more and more effect of shielding by the inner electrons on the outermost electron, and thus the effective nuclear charge decreases. So I hope you are clear up to this. So with increase in atomic number, shielding effect increases, effective nuclear charge decreases. Effective nuclear charge is nothing but the attraction of nucleus towards the outermost electron, which is reduced by the shielding effect present by the electrons present in between them. So now if you have completely understood this effective nuclear charge concept, Let us now discuss the azimuthal shapes. So shape of the orbital. If you consider the shape of the orbital such as S, P, D, if you consider the shape of the orbitals S, T and D, what you can observe is S orbitals are spherical in shape, right? S orbitals are spherical in shape. If you consider this nucleus, if you consider this as a nucleus, so electrons will be spread accordingly in a spherical manner around the nucleus of one s orbital. Okay, so the electrons present on one s orbital will be completely equally shared throughout the around the nucleus. So therefore, they create a more extensive shielding effect. They create more extensive shielding effect because they are concentrated equally in all direction. If you consider p orbital, they have a less number of orbitals and they are aligned in particular direction like px, py or pz. So the orbitals of p creates a shielding effect only in certain direction. If it is on x-axis, it creates shielding effect in this particular positions only, but not here. So this complete space create a clear attraction energy. So therefore, the effective repulsion created by s orbital is more when compared to p. Similarly, when compared to d, it is slightly less when compared to p. So the effective shielding effect will be greater for s, which will be greater than p, and p will be greater than d. Similarly, d will be greater than f. This is because the shape of orbitals will be factor which increases the shielding effect. The amount of effectiveness of shielding is more for s orbital when compared to p, when compared to d. Okay, so clearly we can say that we can experience a difference in shielding effect. If the shielding effect experienced here for the given subshells is different, then the energy of that subshells will also be different. Okay, so what the conclusion over here is, since the effective nuclear charge depends upon the shielding effect and the shape of orbitals are different when compared to one another, they clearly give away different type of shielding effect. If they give a different shielding effect, so they will be having a different nuclear charge. If the nuclear charge increases, the shape of the orbital may also vary, and clearly the energy may vary again. So therefore, what happens is, instead of considering all the orbitals of the same shell as the same energy, we can clearly say that the subshells present in an orbital will be having different energy. So therefore, now what we can say is, if you consider these orbitals which we use just for azimuthal principal quantum number, now we can say that using azimuthal quantum number also, we can alter the energy of the orbital. We can alter the energy of the orbital. So instead of taking just degenerate orbitals, we can split these orbitals into two. So that is, 1s will be singular because it has just one s orbital, and next for 2s, effective shielding of s is greater than p, therefore s will be having very less energy. So s will be at the bottom and p will be at slightly greater than the degenerate level. So such as like this. So split into two, one with lesser value than the actual, one with greater value than the actual. So 2s, 2p. Similarly, in this case, we have 3s, 3p, 3d. Okay. So now, if you use both principal quantum number and azimuthal quantum number, we clearly have a different energy levels. Okay. So this different energy levels is nothing but the value of n and L. So that is what we discussed in the previous video of n plus L rule. So that is, whenever you consider the n plus L rule, what we observe is, when you add the value of n and the value of L, we get a certain particular energy level. So, and we have to arrange these energies with the increasing order of the energy levels. Okay. So therefore, when you use those values, what happens is, the 4s orbital of the n shell will be slightly below when compared to the 3d orbital of m shell. So therefore, electron first fills the 4s orbital and then it fills the 3d orbital. So if you have doubt about the n plus L values, I have written down this table in the previous video. Go check it once again, where n plus value are arranged. For 1s the value was 1, for 2s the value was 2, and 2p the value was 3, 3s the value was 3 again. But what happens is, if we have same n plus L value, you need to consider the value least whose n value is less. If we have two different orbitals of same n plus L value, consider the one with n least, consider the one with lesser n value as a lower energy level. Okay, so out of these two, the value of n is less for 2p, therefore it is considered as the lower energy level, and whereas 3s is considered as a higher energy level. In case of 4s, we get the value of 4, and 3d we get the value of 5. So therefore, we arrange 4s first and we later put the 3d orbital. So now if you fill the electron, 1s gets 2 electron, 2s gets 2 electron, 2p gets 6 electrons, 3s gets 2, 3p gets 6, next 4s gets 2, 3d gets 10. Okay. So this is how we fill the electrons of a given orbital. So you have to remember one thing, not one, more than one. So first point is, the energy level of a given orbital depends upon n plus L value. Second point, more the atomic number, more will be the shielding effect and less will be its effective nuclear charge. Third point, the effective nuclear charge of a given nucleus of attraction towards the electron in case of hydrogen atom depends only on the principal quantum number, but in case of multi-electron system, it depends upon both principal and azimuthal quantum number. Okay, so using all these factors, using all these theories, we can clearly say that particular value of given elements or particular electronic configuration can be filled. Okay, so once this energy is completely understood, you can next go to the filling up of electrons in a given orbital. Okay, so remember this n plus L value is more important. So how do we write those n plus L values? So for that, if you start with 1s, value of 1s here, value of n is 1, value of s, where L will be 0. In order to get s, L will be 0. In order to get 2s, here n is equal to 2, and for s, L will be again 0. So we'll discuss more about these n plus L values in the next video, that is about the filling up of electrons in order to write down the electronic configurations. Okay, so this is enough for today. If you have understood the concepts which I have explained, please do remember this energy level values of n plus L. It will be more useful for our electronic configurations of a given atom. So if you have understood this video, please subscribe to my channel and share this among your friends so that they can get use of these videos which I am uploading every day. Thank you for watching.